Hi, I'm John Kursky, and in this video, I want to show you that if you see this issue in Power Query Lint, how to future-proof your connections to data flows. Now, before we get started, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you can stay up to date on all the rules and new features we'll be rolling out here in the coming months. And with that, let's take a look at the data flow I have up on the screen here. This is a Gen 1 data flow, and it is connecting, let me zoom in here, it is connecting to another data flow. Now this is a common practice, especially with Gen 1 data flows, to have what we would consider a medallion architecture, where maybe we have a bronze layer that's pulling in the data sources, and then we have the transformations and aggregations happening in another data flow. And for a lot of the colleagues I work with or customers, we've been using data flows for a while. And it could be that you've been using it for so long, or these data flows are so old that some of the connectors to other data flows is using a legacy connector. And the way that you can find out about that is if I copy this Power Query and paste that into Power Query Lint, it will identify this issue using the legacy PowerBI.Dataflows connector. Now, a number of years ago, Microsoft actually introduced a new connector that allows you to connect to not only data flows that exist in Power BI, but data flows that exist in the Power Platform environment. Quick aside, the data flows, you can actually use data flows in the Power Platform environment to move data from something like a SharePoint list into Dataverse, which is pretty cool, and kind of a predecessor to what we would consider the Gen 2 data flows. One of the things that I've run into, especially if I'm working with folks who are using linked entities or have a chain using the medallion architecture for data flows, is from time to time that connector, the classic one, the legacy one, will have a connection issue. And it's really tough to fix using the classic connector. What you end up having to do is just switch over to the new connector, which I'll show you here in a second. And so if you want to future-proof your data flows or future-proof your Power BI desktop or semantic model connecting to a data flow, what I would suggest is upgrading it. And I'll show you here in a second. When you upgrade your Gen 1 data flow to Gen 2 data flows, it doesn't automatically switch the legacy PowerBI.Dataflows connector to the new one. So I'm going to show you both in the Gen 1 version and Gen 2 version how you should switch it. It's the same steps, but I just want to show you what the experience is. All right, so if I go back to the data flow here, one of the easiest ways to just fix the issue that I've seen is if you go to New Source, this is not the legacy connector. And I'll connect to my connection, hit Next, go to my workspaces. You'll notice that there's an Environments button. That's where the Power Platform data flows would be running. But we're going to just look in the Power BI arena here, and I'm going to go to my demo data flow and connect to the same source. Hit Create. And you'll notice it created a new connection, but if I go up to the top here, instead of using PowerBI.Dataflows, it's PowerPlatform.Dataflows. And there's a couple different ways that you could go about replacing the original here. One of them is if there's any subsequent downstream connections, you can just replace it with this source name here instead of the Marvel source. The other one, which I haven't seen it behave ineffectively, you can just overwrite that. And I've noticed that it's maintained the connection. I haven't had any issues downstream. If you do, you can always just take the other approach where you're just kind of replacing your downstream tables that are referencing it with this new reference. And then if I get rid of this old one, copy that into Power Query Lint, let me clear this out, and there's no potential issues now. Now, let me walk you through real quickly on the upgrade process as well, just to show you that if you upgrade your Gen 1 data flow to a Gen 2, doesn't necessarily fix the potential issue with the legacy connector. So I'm going to close this, go to here, right click or click the ellipses, and then I'm going to save as a Dataflow Gen 2, create. So do that connection. All right, and you'll notice that if I still copy this to Power Query Lint, just because I upgraded it didn't fix that I was using the legacy connector. So you'll need to take that same step where you will want to get the new data using the new connector. Go to the workspaces again. Go to where my source data is located. Create. Now, if I'm upgrading and now I'm going to save this data somewhere else, or I'm going to reference other tables, again, what you can do is just switch the references out in your subsequent Power Query tables to use this new table as the source, or what you can do is this right click on the original and overwrite it. And then I'll delete the duplicate at this point. Notice that I created the new table, went to the old table, replaced the Power Query code, and then deleted the the temporary table that I had to create to get the new connector and the Power Query. That's usually best practice. Just because you rename the table to the old table and delete the old table, that sometimes has downstream impacts because the lineage doesn't know under the hood what the GUIDs are for the lineage tags to make those connections. So just if you overwrite the Power Query code in the background, it's usually a safer bet instead of deleting the table and renaming the new one. So just once again to illustrate, when I copy the Power Query code for this, notice there's no more potential issues using the connector. So I hope you learned something today. Think about future-proofing your data flow connections, whether you're using a data flow or you're connecting from a desktop or semantic model to your data flows, especially if you've been working with data flows for a number of years. Give Power Query Lint a try and see if you've got any legacy connections that you need to future-proof. And with that, appreciate your time today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.